Hello and welcome back to another edition to GSS Videos. I'm your host, Glenn Sam Sloan, hence the GSS, and videos is what I do. In this video, I'm going to advertise a Facebook group that I own. I own this Facebook group because I have a disability called hydrocephalus. Alright. Hydrocephalus and spina bifida can work hand in hand with each other. So you could have either one or the other, or you could have both. Set this Facebook group up to help other people like myself. Okay, people with hydrocephalus or spina bifida or both. What I'm going to do now, while I'm just having a bit of a bite to eat, there. I'm going to go over and share screens and talk in between mouthfuls because I don't eat with mouthfuls. And I'll also play a couple of the videos I have on this Facebook group. Okay, the information videos. Some of them are quite funny. Some from maybe you might find boring, but they're all information videos nonetheless. Okay. Let's go over and click on so we can share the screen. This is my Facebook page. This is my Facebook group. Sorry, Hydrocephalus and on Hydrocephalus and Spina Bifida online network in the UK. It says it's in the UK. That's because I'm based in the United Kingdom. So I put the UK because that's my country. But this group will help anyone. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what country you're in, as long as you have hydrocephalus or spina bifida, or know someone who does, it'd be fine. Okay. What I've got here, right, is so there you go. Here, yes, you can see I am known as Edward Sloan here on Facebook, but my name is really Glenn Sam Sloan, hence the GSS videos. Like it's GSS, it's my initials. Right. So and I've got a person who wants to do like say what I do before I go over. Okay. Look at this. We've got one person here. So it's someone called Ashley Edwards. Hello, Ashley. I just accepted you in the group. Okay. As I'm live streaming still, you've been accepted live through YouTube in the group. So, please, I hope I haven't upset you by doing that. Okay. Let's have a look, shall we? It's in these. Hang on. Before I scroll down here. I made this group here. This picture. Right, it's keep calm. It's only hydrocephalus and support us with what we need. Done it there as well, but this was just through the Facebook thing. That was through on my worked on by my computer. Right. What I do here actually. So go over and play some videos, sorry, some information videos. This whole here, right, is the videos I have on the group. as you can see, you've got one here for hydrocephalus, here and here. These two are spina bifida. Here's hydrocephalus as well. This guy here talking about a dog who had hydrocephalus. These here are also dogs who got hydrocephalus. This little girl in this video is getting her shunt tapped. Okay, and then you've got like videos here. I made these are hydrocephalus videos as well. This is another hydrocephalus video. This is a cartoon video of hydrocephalus. I made this one personally myself. Right. I don't personally know the owner who done this video, but I thought it was pretty good, so I thought I had to share it out on the group. And I don't know the owner who done this video, but again, I think it was pretty good. So I had to share it. And these are good videos. I think this is a surgery video. So go back and play it.
Hi, my name is Ben Wharf. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon here at Children's Hospital, where I'm the director of neonatal and congenital anomalies neurosurgery. I'm here to talk to you today about hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus is a common condition. In fact, it's the most common condition that we treat in pediatric neurosurgery. This is a normal brain. Inside the brain are these spaces that we call ventricles. Inside the ventricles is a tissue called choroid plexus that pumps out cerebrospinal fluid. It's like water that has a little sugar and salt in it, you might say. The brain makes about 1 ounce of this every hour. And at the same rate it's being produced, it makes its way out of the brain and to the outside fluid space where it is absorbed at the same rate that it's being produced. Hydrocephalus occurs when anything interferes with that. So, if there's an obstruction to the flow of this fluid,
please feel free to comment your views on this video. Thank you.
In the linings around the brain, then fluid backs up in the spaces in the brain because it's continuing to be produced. What happens then is that these spaces get larger. And that large space with this buildup of fluid is the condition we call hydrocephalus. Now, hydrocephalus is a real problem because as that fluid builds up, it puts pressure on the brain. And this can affect the developing brain in a young child, and it can eventually lead to a dangerous illness where the child becomes quite ill, ultimately would go into coma and potentially die. Or in a young infant, the head grows very fast, much faster than normal, and the child gets a large head and their development is affected adversely because of this buildup of pressure inside the brain. Hydrocephalus can be caused by a number of different things, such as a tumor blocking the fluid, a hemorrhage inside the brain, or an infection. And there are also congenital causes of hydrocephalus where these fluid pathways are not formed properly, and therefore the fluid does not get out of the brain efficiently. Whatever the cause of hydrocephalus, it's very important to treat it, especially in a young child, so that we can protect their brain and allow them to otherwise develop as well as they could normally. Once your child is diagnosed with hydrocephalus, it's important to move along with treatment. And the most common way to treat hydrocephalus is the placement of a device called a shunt. A shunt is a tube that goes through a small opening in the skull, passes through the brain, and enters into this enlarged ventricle. This is attached to a small valve which regulates the flow of fluid, and then tubing slides underneath the skin and is passed into the abdominal cavity where the fluid can be absorbed in a normal way. We put extra tubing into the belly so the child doesn't outgrow it as they get taller. So as the fluid is blocked in here in the ventricle, it can now have a way to escape and get out of the brain by flowing down into the belly. The problem with shunts is that they can require a number of operations sometimes throughout the child's life to keep them functioning properly. And being dependent on a device that requires maintenance can be a real problem. There's another alternative treatment which might be appropriate for your child, but not in every case. That alternative is called an endoscopic third ventriculostomy, or ETV. In this procedure, an endoscope is passed through a small opening in the skull into the ventricle of the brain. This is attached to a camera so that we can see inside and perform the procedure. A small opening is made in a membrane at the base of the ventricle spaces that allows the fluid to escape into the normal fluid pathway and be absorbed. And this bypasses the obstruction that has caused the hydrocephalus in the first place. For certain patients, this is a cure for the hydrocephalus, and failures later on in life are very rare. Usually, if this is not going to work, it becomes apparent fairly soon after the operation. For young infants, we've known that endoscopic third ventriculostomy does not have as high a rate of success. Here at Children's, we're trying to push the envelope on avoiding shunt dependence in young children. And we found that if at the time we perform the ETV, we reduce this tissue that's making the fluid by a procedure called a choroid plexus cauterization, or CPC, it significantly increases the likelihood that the ETV is going to be successful in babies. And so for young infants, sometimes we do the combined procedure that we call an ETV CPC. It's our hope here at Children's Hospital Boston that this innovative procedure we've developed will be able to avoid shunt dependence in many children in the years to come.
So I hope you enjoyed that video. That video is about hydrocephalus. It is American. The Americans and the British, they say hydrocephalus in two different ways, but it all means the same thing, right? Go over and play this one very quickly.
The most common treatment option for hydrocephalus is a ventriculoperitoneal shunt. And that's where we put a small catheter into the fluid space, hook it up to a pressurized valve underneath the skin, either in the back of the head or in the front, and hook it up to another catheter underneath the skin that goes into the belly and gets reabsorbed there. But there are also other newer treatments for hydrocephalus, including endoscopic third ventriculostomy, or treatment that we do at Children's for infants is endoscopic third ventriculostomy and choroid plexus coagulation. Is a newer procedure that we do for the infants that have hydrocephalus. If they're good candidates for it, then what we do is we make a small incision on the right side of the front area of the scalp. We go in with a small endoscope and we coagulate the choroid plexus, and that's the area of the brain that produces a...
Oh, sorry about that.
The most common treatment option for hydrocephalus is a ventriculoperitoneal shunt.
Sorry about that.
And that's where we put a small catheter into the fluid space, hook it up to a pressurized valve underneath the skin, either in the back of the head or in the front, and hook it up to another catheter underneath the skin that goes into the belly and gets reabsorbed there. But there are also other newer treatments for hydrocephalus, including endoscopic third ventriculostomy, or treatment that we do at Children's for infants is endoscopic third ventriculostomy and choroid plexus coagulation. Is a newer procedure that we do for the infants that have hydrocephalus. If they're good candidates for it, then what we do is we make a small incision on the right side of the front area of the scalp. We go in with a small endoscope and we coagulate the choroid plexus, and that's the area of the brain that produces the cerebrospinal fluid. And we also make a small opening in the floor of the third ventricle. The third ventricle is one of the 4 fluid spaces that we normally have in the brain, and creating a bypass for the fluid to go through. And we have had pretty good success with this for treatment of hydrocephalus.
Well, that is that's another video. Both of them happen to be hydrocephalus. So we do go over, and before I go over and do spina bifida, there's another one here, right, which actually surprised me. It really surprised me. Right? I didn't know that hydrocephalus can lead to this. So it surprised me, and I don't know if you guys will know, but let's have a look. Please comment below.
Hello, did you know that every 4 seconds someone in the world develops dementia? So imagine yourself counting to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam! Now somebody just got dementia. Around 35 million people suffer from this terrible disease. There are many types of dementia. One of them is normal pressure hydrocephalus. Hydro meaning water, and cephalus meaning brain. So a watery brain, or more specifically, cerebrospinal fluid, this blue color, accumulates in the brain. Why? The cerebrospinal fluid is continuously produced in the ventricles. It travels within the subarachnoid space, this blue color, and then it reaches the arachnoid granulations, which absorb the cerebrospinal fluid and transfer it to the brain sinuses, which remove the fluid from the brain. But in this disease, there are problems with absorption in the arachnoid granulations, so the cerebrospinal fluid cannot be removed properly. And now, if you know physics, you would argue that if the fluid is continuously produced, it's not removed, then the pressure should increase in the brain. And you are correct, the pressure slightly increases, but stays in the normal range. Why? Because the brain is soft, so it gets compressed. Where? In the ventricles. So these will dilate. We can see this dilation with neuroimaging like CT scan or MRI, and this is one indication for diagnosing normal pressure hydrocephalus, but we need more information for diagnosis because the ventricles can be dilated due to other reasons too. First of all, we can check the symptoms. What is the patient complaining about? Pay attention to 3 symptoms. Gait problems, meaning that the balance of the patient is bad. We can typically see magnetic gait that looks like the patient's feet are pulled by the big magnet in the floor. If you're curious what I mean, you just check out some YouTube videos showing patients with this magnetic gait. Second symptom is urinary incontinence. And thirdly, we have dementia. And dementia happens usually late in the disease. The early signs of dementia are impaired attention and executive functions like problem solving, planning, reasoning, etc. The late signs of dementia are impaired memory. Vascular dementia, another type of dementia, can also have these 3 symptoms. So symptoms are not enough for diagnosis. So all 3 symptoms are somehow related to the nervous system. Remember that the cerebrospinal fluid accumulates and that it compresses the brain. So let's try to remove this fluid and see if it gets better. And we will use a method called lumbar puncture, also called spinal tap. Here we remove about 30 to 50 milliliter of cerebrospinal fluid. It will in a couple of hours lead to an improvement in gait, continence, and cognition. And now we know that it is normal pressure hydrocephalus. The next step is then to treat it with ventriculoperitoneal shunting, and this means that we put a tube into the brain ventricle and let the tube enter into the peritoneal cavity, meaning into the abdominal region, and in this way the cerebrospinal fluid flows into the abdomen, so the pressure cannot build up in the brain, and then therefore the patient does not feel the symptoms anymore.
Well, that's, I never knew about that. I'll play this quick one quickly. This is a cartoon one that's.
Oh my God, Bella, you smell like steak.
Oh my God, your skin is so shiny.
Yes, Bella, I have something to tell you. I have hydrocephalus.
Oh my God, what is that?
It is a condition that means my brain can't eliminate spinal fluid, it just builds up. It makes me an angsty little prick sometimes, and the pain can often make me bad-tempered. Loud noises and bright lights hurt my head.
Oh my God, you're like totally blowing my mind right now. I knew there was something going on.
Don't worry, Bella, as long as my shunt is in place and working, you're safe.
Shunt? What on earth is a shunt? I'm like totally confused here, dude.
A shunt is a plastic tube that goes from my brain to my peritoneal cavity to drain the fluid off. It keeps me from hulking out so much, and let's face it, chicks dig scars.
Oh my goodness, Edward, that must suck.
Sometimes it does, but the shunt gives me special powers. I can predict the weather and sense when danger is near.
Wow, Edward, I had no idea you were so complex. Wanna go to the prom?
Well, you see, Bella, I'd love to. The problem is that hydrocephalus makes me uncoordinated and clumsy, so dancing is not my strong suit.
Don't worry, you'll be fine. The prom is basically an excuse for teenagers to get drunk and make out in limousines in formal wear.
Oh. Well, in that case, I'm in. I have to go, my hydro sense is tingling.
Sigh.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if anyone was offended, how? This was funny as hell. On a serious note, hydrocephalus is a very serious condition. It is manageable, but there is no cure yet, and people still die of this disease all the time. Please help to spread awareness so that one day it will be a thing of the past.
I like this one as well. These two are not mine.
Hi Brad, hope you're feeling better now. I heard you had to have an operation and you were in hospital for a while. I know you have been getting headaches, so what happened?
Well, as you know, I have a memory like a goldfish. I get irritated over the smallest thing, and my vision has been getting worse, hence the specs.
Yes, I do remember, and I did notice you are really clumsy lately. So what happened when you visited the doctors?
They looked into my eyes and immediately ordered a CT scan. After the scan, they said my head was full of pressure as my CSF fluid is not draining away.
Wow, that sounds serious. I feel bad about making fun at you now. So after the scan, what did they do? I notice you have a nice scar behind your ear. Was you scared?
They were great at the hospital. I went straight into surgery to have a shunt fitted. It's basically a tube to drain away the fluid, but the downside is there is no cure.
Wow, it is serious. There is no cure, but I'm sure now you have that tube shunt thing, you will be fine, right?
No, as these shunts have only a 50% success rate. If it blocks, I will need more surgery to replace it. My life has changed forever.
So you say it can't be cured. What's the name of this condition? I need to look it up so I can help you through this tough time.
The condition is called hydrocephalus.
Then this cartoon video is what I have made. Alright, this is what I made.
What is hydrocephalus?
Hydrocephalus comes from the Greek hydro, meaning water, and cephali, meaning brain. A watery fluid, known as cerebrospinal fluid or CSF.
Comment on the videos.
What causes hydrocephalus?
The condition is caused by the inability of CSF to drain away into the bloodstream. There are many reasons why this can happen. Hydrocephalus can be congenital.
How is hydrocephalus treated?
Some forms of hydrocephalus require no specific treatment. Other forms are temporary and do not require treatment on a long-term basis. However, most forms do require treatment.
What is a shunt?
A shunt is simply a device which diverts the accumulated CSF around the obstructed pathways and returns it to the bloodstream. It consists of a system of tubes with a valve.
Possible complications.
In most cases, the shunts are intended to stay in place for life, although alterations or revisions might become necessary from time to time. The tube or catheter may become
I've got to check something. So if I click over here for a minute. He doesn't need to keep. I don't know why he keeps this little dude. He's keep commenting on all the posts saying the same thing. Yes, yes, Ashley Edwards, mate. I do remember you. I do remember you, Ashley Edwards. But please refrain from keep commenting on the same. Please stop commenting the same thing at every single post. It is classed as spamming the timeline with the same comments for time and time again. Okay, you're more than welcome to come into the group and do things that talk to the group members. That I've got a problem with, but just please don't just comment below. All right, it's already got that one. So what I do that last one and then do that one. Right. Okay. I'm not being in a. I'm not being. What would you just please refrain from commenting the same comment on the timeline posts? Okay. Thanks, mate. Again, this one's for spina bifida.
The first stages of the developmental defect of spina bifida occur in the first 2 to 3 weeks after conception.
My good God, I don't know what Facebook is playing at, but it doesn't allow me to play the videos half the time.
The first stages of the developmental defect of spina bifida occur in the first 2 to 3 weeks after conception, before the mother knows she is pregnant. The defect can occur anywhere along the length of the spine, but most commonly occurs in the lower back. The severity of the defect varies greatly from one individual to another, ranging from no noticeable impact to severe paralysis and loss of sensation. Lesions higher in the spinal column result in more weakness of the trunk and possibly the arms, as well as the legs. Because the nerves that control the bowel and bladder are located on the lowest part of the spine, the function of those organs will likely be compromised in all clinically significant cases. Myelomeningocele, the most common type of spina bifida, presents as a sac of exposed meninges or spinal cord membranous coverings, frequently containing parts of the spinal cord and the nerves attached to it. When a baby is born with this condition, it is critical to surgically repair the defect and cover the lesion with skin within the first 24 to 72 hours after birth to prevent infection in the nervous system and further nerve damage. 80% of children born with myelomeningocele will also have hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus occurs when the cerebrospinal fluid flow is obstructed or blocked, and then pressure from that fluid may build in the ventricular system, causing the brain and skull to expand. It is typically treated by surgical insertion of a shunt to allow the fluid to flow out from the brain. It is important to note that each child born with spina bifida is unique and will have different degrees of clinical symptoms and functional limitations. With the appropriate medical care, rehabilitation, guidance, and encouragement, many individuals with spina bifida may live productive and fulfilling lives.
What's it do?
The term spina bifida comes from the Latin split spine, which is actually a pretty good description because spina bifida is a birth defect where the tissue on the left and the right side of the back that normally come over the spinal cord to protect it don't completely meet up to form a nice seal, leaving behind various degrees of an opening right down the middle of the lower back. Very early on in fetal development, the ectoderm, which is the outer layer of the fertilized egg, starts to develop a bit of a ridge that eventually becomes the neural tube. This neural tube goes on to become the spinal cord, the brain, as well as tissues that enclose and protect them, called the meninges. And spina bifida occurs when a portion of this neural tube fails to close properly, typically in the lower back. This constitutes a defect or absence of the vertebral arches due to a failure of mesoderm to organize over the region of the defect, and it may or may not involve the underlying meninges and neural tissue. All right, so there are three main types of spina bifida, and the first is myelomeningocele, also called meningomyelocele. And this is the most severe of the three and happens when the spinal cord and the surrounding meninges protrude out of an opening in the bony vertebrae and are held together by a sac of skin that pouches out from the back. In really severe cases, there's no skin at all, and the nerves of the spinal cord are therefore exposed, a condition called open spina bifida. And this can cause serious damage to the exposed nerves, as well as risk an infection, resulting in symptoms like loss of sensation or paralysis in the areas of the body below the damaged site, bladder or bowel movement problems, seizures, as well as leg and foot deformities. Now, a myelomeningocele is typically associated with a condition called an Arnold-Chiari II malformation, which is where cerebellar and brainstem tissues slip down into the foramen magnum, the opening at the base of the skull. This Arnold-Chiari II malformation results in a variety of symptoms related to the cerebellum, and often results in hydrocephalus, an abnormal accumulation of cerebrospinal fluid in the brain. All right, the second type of spina bifida is meningocele, sometimes called a meningeal cyst. In this condition, the prenatal spinal deformities result only in the meninges and not the spinal nerves, slipping into the gaps between the deformed vertebrae. This one's the least common form of spina bifida. And because the spinal cord itself isn't damaged, these individuals often don't experience the severe symptoms that are seen in myelomeningocele. All right, the third and final type is spina bifida occulta. And this is the most common and most mild form of spina bifida. In fact, occulta is Latin for hidden, which is appropriate since many of the normal prenatal tests used to diagnose spina bifida don't catch the disorder because the deformities in the tissues of the lower back are tiny. In spina bifida occulta, the spinal cord and surrounding tissue don't protrude, nor is any of the tissue forced into spaces between the vertebrae. Since the spinal nerves are undamaged, people with this form of the disorder are often asymptomatic, and the condition is usually only found accidentally later in life. At most, people might have hair, a dimple, or birthmark on their back above the site of the lesion. Now, the exact cause of all three types of spina bifida isn't known, but there are known risk factors like folate or vitamin B9 deficiency during fetal development. And therefore, prenatal vitamins include folic acid, which is the manufactured form of folate. The developmental deformities, though, that cause spina bifida often take place in the 4th week of pregnancy, which is 21 to 28 days. And this could be before a woman might know that she's even pregnant, and therefore she's not taking the prenatal vitamins yet. To help combat this, enriched grain products like breakfast cereals made with whole grains have folic acid added to the flour as a general preventative measure. Other risk factors for having a child with spina bifida include obesity, poorly controlled diabetes, and taking medications that interfere with folate metabolism, like certain anti-seizure medications. Diagnosis for the most severe form of spina bifida, myelomeningocele, is often done prenatally by looking for an increased level of alpha-fetoprotein, or AFP, in the mother's serum, which can happen when the skin surrounding the fetus's spine is missing and AFP leaks into the amniotic fluid and into the mother's bloodstream. AFP, though, can be elevated in other conditions as well. So in order to get a more exact diagnosis, additional blood tests for human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, inhibin A, and estriol, as well as an ultrasound, are usually done. In more serious cases, amniocentesis, where a sample is taken directly from the amniotic sac surrounding the fetus, can be performed. For treatment, prenatal surgery is done to close a myelomeningocele, but this surgery can be dangerous to the developing fetus as well as the mother. In cases where postnatal surgery is chosen, it's often done within the first few days of an infant's life in order to minimize the risk of infection like meningitis. Even if the surgery is successful, people with this condition typically need additional interventions like urinary catheterization to help with urination and crutches or wheelchairs in case of paralysis or low muscle tone, because the damaged or underdeveloped spinal nerves can't be repaired. All right, as a quick recap, the three types of spina bifida are spina bifida occulta, which is the most common and least severe, meningocele, which is the least common and also typically not very severe, and myelomeningocele, which is the most severe form of spina bifida. Thanks for watching. You can help support us by donating on Patreon or subscribing to our channel or telling your friends about us on social media.
So I think that channel, that video was very interesting. Again, I had to share it. I felt like I had to share it on my group. So done me quite well. I hope that you find it very interesting as well. Click on here for a minute. Alright, how to capture emergency, how to tap a VP shunt. How to tap a VP shunt. Right, this is what people with shunts like myself have to go through every now and then. This little girl is so brave because
she's been complaining of a headache for
tapping
a couple days,
your shunt.
And why does she have the shunt in place already? What does she have?
Very painful, very sore.
Okay, she had an astrocytoma. Okay, she became altered today. Yeah. She was unresponsive to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the CT scan, it's like
tapping the shunt.
What's going on in there? So you're going to tap
that
the shunt. And the neurosurgery doctor
putting needles straight into the shunt itself.
Yeah. Why did you do that? Just because I don't want mom to be in the position of having to.
Yeah, I'm a little shaky.
Yeah. No.
You can just sit right here and talk to her, and she can probably hear you.
Absolutely.
Sing her a song or something that she likes.
Don't ask Danny to sing a song.
Yeah, people ask me not to sing.
Try not to cover, especially for the kids, their face.
So what was your goal?
Watch this.
Procedure?
Right now, the goal is to see if we can get any fluid to come out from the shunt itself to see if the proximal portion of the catheter is working.
So when you put a needle in here and it
that's the shunt.
And you don't get any fluid out.
The shunt.
That would suggest you.
The shunt. This is the part where they're going to tap the needles and that into this part here.
Okay.
and it will hurt.
What do you see more often?
Big
Proximal
time.
shunt malfunctions or the distal?
But people with hydrocephalus who has shunts have to go through it on
50-50.
sort of
I know.
of recurring
Your hands
basis.
are
So
right. I'd say often when they get this,
we sort of we get used to the pain that it can
and what you
cause.
feel for the bulb, the reservoir
Yes, it still
part,
hurts.
which is the soft and
So
squishy
we just
part.
let it happen, let it go,
If you
just go
stick
through
the
it.
needle straight in,
see
typically you
that?
should have fluid that comes out spontaneously. I don't see
That
anything flowing.
is so sore.
So occasionally, if you get it started with a syringe, you don't want to necessarily pull too hard. I'm not getting, there's some of the tube, but it's definitely not coming out.
Okay. So this is suggestive of proximal shunt malfunction.
Yes. And right now, I'm just gonna see if I can get a little bit just to send.
What would be your advice to emergency docs who are operating in a small ED miles away from a neurosurgeon? When should they not do this, or when should they do this?
I would say probably I would do it under the direction of a neurosurgeon because somebody may have to take responsibility for that, and occasionally it can cause an airlock into an infected shunt.
Yes.
So we don't normally do these until we kind of
Are pushed to the limit.
well, until we're fairly certain. Yeah, you're done.
Well done, sweetie. Good job. Good job.
Yeah, typically we kind of know the answer when we do that. A lot of times we like to get a little bit of fluid, like I did, to send for a gram staining culture at least. And then in the event that we did get fluid flowing spontaneously, we would check the pressure with a manometer. And
have used the manometer there. Yeah.
To check that, to see where the pressure is. And then we also would check for what's called distal runoff, which is kind of hard to do with as little fluid as we had there, especially because we had to aspirate it.
So would you purposely drain some fluid if it was draining out?
If it would come out and it looked like she had hydrocephalus, yes, you can do that to temporize it.
To temporize, right? Okay.
In her case, I got very little to come.
Right. So the next step with her is to the operating room.
Either that or you can also do a ventriculostomy or EVD.
Okay.
Which may be what happens tonight.
Okay. So right now she doesn't wake up. She moves around, does some perp. She responds to pain. She'll complain a little bit. But
mind you, when I got my shunt hat, I was awake.
Yeah. Yeah, when they put the IV in, she didn't respond to that. So yeah, so we have some concerns, that like if you and I talked, we might have to take control of her airway or something like that if we have to. So.
No, leave that on.
So she got a little disconjugate gaze. Okay, there's that. So the pupils are equal.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If this is the first time you've seen GSS videos myself on your screens and you haven't yet subscribed, please go over, click on that subscribe button, subscribe to me, and turn my notifications on. That'll mean a lot to me. So I'll say a big thank you to you on that one. If you have hydrocephalus or spina bifida, please don't hesitate to become a member of our Facebook group here. That's Hydrocephalus and Spina Bifida online network in the UK. Doesn't matter what country you're from, because in that group, I will welcome anyone who has hydrocephalus or spina bifida, or family members or friends of someone who has hydrocephalus or spina bifida, or both. So please feel free to come and take a look and have some fun. I must say in advance, please keep all timeline posts hydrocephalus and Spina Bifida related. Okay, if you've got hydrocephalus and just hydrocephalus, you can keep it. So you can do posts on your hydrocephalus. If you've got Spina Bifida and just Spina Bifida, you can do posts on your Spina Bifida. Or if you've got both, you can do posts on both. Right? Or you can do both posts on both of them if you've got one or other as well. So far, I've got the one for hydrocephalus, but I've done posts with both hydrocephalus and Spina Bifida. Yeah, please feel free to come along and become a member of Hydrocephalus and on Hydrocephalus and Spina Bifida online network. I will go over and quickly share the screen again so you can take a look of the group and what it looks like. All right, this is the group right here, Hydrocephalus and Spina Bifida online network in the UK. Images up here. And it even says, if you notice, inside the description, the IP address up here. Okay, so please feel free to take a look. Okay, thank you.